So now you're probably asking yourself, why the hell is he in this ridiculous pose? My response to that, why the hell not? So hello YouTube, welcome back to my channel. My name is Toch, and on this channel I make content about my experience through the software development industry. So it's actually been a while since I made a video on this channel. I've just been so busy with school and work and also some health related issues, which I'll probably make a video of in the future. But anyways, I just don't have the time to be able to make, videos weekly or anything like that. So for now, whenever I get the chance, I'll just make a video about things that I think are interesting or helpful. Which brings us to the topic of this video, and it is how to go about building a strong project-based resume. So if you spend any amount of time looking at job or internship postings, you probably already have a good idea of how important it is to have solid projects on your resume. But one of the biggest difficulties that I've known through my own experience and through talking to some friends of mine is that it's not always clear how to go about building, your resume up. What kind of projects should you build? What kind of skills should you focus on? Things like that, which is why I'm making this video. So now I've spent some time looking over the early stages of my career, which is everything that I've done to date. And I've really focused in on some of the key moments and some of the key skills or the key methodology steps that I've taken to build the resume that I have currently. And I'm going to share that with you basically in this video. And I guess to establish a bit of my ethos, I'm going to leave a link to my personal website as well as my LinkedIn page in the description of this video, just so you can, take a look at it and know and get a sense of what I'm talking about. So now it's a really simple set of steps. There's no magic behind it. There's nothing fancy about it. In fact, it's only 4 steps in total. The first of which is making sure that you know what industry that you're interested in getting into / exploring. So for obvious reasons, the first step is the most important one because it pretty much dictates everything else that you do with the remainder of these steps. And so if that's something you haven't done just yet, you haven't figured out what industry you want to get into, I highly encourage you to spend a lot of time just looking into the different industries, trying to figure out what it is you're into, what you would want to spend the rest of your life doing if you had to, I'd say. So that's step 1. Now moving on to step 2. So step 2 is to learn / build non-enterprise skills in that domain that you've chosen. So what do I mean by non-enterprise skills? Well, I guess let me define what enterprise skills are first, and then that can give you an idea. So enterprise skills are basically skills that are really only useful for large companies, right? Either because it requires using tools that are like super expensive, that only established companies can afford, or maybe, it's whatever the tool is or the skill is, it's something that's so specific to a certain domain or like a certain company that you can only ever anything you can build with it is only useful to big companies, right? So non-enterprise skills, on the other hand, are skills that you can sell to small businesses and everyday people. So for example, we have like Photoshop, video editing, Microsoft Excel, WordPress, Shopify, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, social media marketing, copywriting, and just to name a few. So focusing on non-enterprise skills is really helpful, especially for people who may not have very strong resumes like most college students might, and that's because of basically the audience that you have access to, right? So the fact is that you don't have access to these big companies, right? You can't really do much for them because they require you to have a lot of experience before they employ you. But smaller businesses, smaller companies, they're much easier for you to access, right? Because they don't require as much, right? The barrier of entry isn't as high for them, which is why it's valuable to start off by building these non-enterprise skills. So 2 of the platforms that have helped me the most when it comes to learning these non-enterprise skills include YouTube and Udemy, right? So typically I recommend, start off on YouTube, just look through different videos, on whatever skills it is that you want to learn, just get a taste of it more or less. And then once you've gotten past the beginner, or at least once you know more about what you want to focus on, then you can go ahead and see if you can find a Udemy course or 2 that, help you further your understanding or your mastery of these skills. So just a few tips about learning skills based on tutorials. So I think by far the most important thing to keep in mind when doing this is to just focus on the fundamentals. In the beginning, you definitely don't want to try to become a master at one time. You want to take it step by step, right? Focus on what are the most important parts. Focus on getting a holistic picture on how the skill works. I'll give you an example using my background. So I'm a software developer, and primarily I focus on web development. And so if you wanted to become a web developer as well, I would tell you, okay, focus on just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, just those three in the beginning. I know there's all this React, Angular, Vue.js, Svelte, all that kind of stuff. Forget all that. If you're a beginner, just focus on getting strong HTML, CSS, and JavaScript skills, because those are the fundamentals of the web. So, and those, like once you learn those and you're comfortable with those, again, you don't have to be an expert, you don't have to master it, you don't have to learn every single function in JavaScript or learn about every single attribute on every single HTML element. You just learn it enough to the point where you can build practical things, and then you move on. Another thing you definitely don't want to get stuck into is what is known as tutorial hell, where it's like you keep on doing tutorial after tutorial after tutorial after tutorial, and like you never ever build anything real or anything on your own, because like you're not sure whether or not you know enough. No one can ever know everything. So what I would recommend is learn the fundamentals, which is basically learn everything, learn enough to the point where if there's something you don't know, you can just Google it and completely understand how to do it, right? Like, and that's pretty much where I'm at with my skills now, is that I can't claim to know every single thing about every single use case there is for JavaScript and web development. But if there is a use case that I don't have experience with, I can easily just Google it and, you know, read through docs for maybe 20 minutes or so, and I pretty much know how to navigate it. So once you've gone through the process of learning these skills, and perhaps you've built one or two projects while going through some of those tutorials, the next step is to go ahead and create an online portfolio. So now this can be a lot of different things. If you're in my domain, software development, software engineering, some options can be either GitHub is a really good place for you to just keep all of your code in the repositories, etc., etc. If you're not, other options, and this is also the same for if you're in my domain as well, could be LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn is one thing that I use a lot to keep track of projects that I've done and, you know, manage my resume in general. Or you can also go ahead and make your own personal website. And personally, I have all three of these things. And so I highly, if you have the time to put into building all these three up, I highly recommend that. It'll do nothing but give you an advantage. And so a really quick comment on the personal website, and specifically for people that are in my domain that also want to get into web development. So I actually don't recommend that you build the personal website from scratch. And the reason I'm saying this is because you pretty much want your website to have a lot of longevity. And when you build things from scratch, it's really slow to iterate over it. You want to build your personal website with a tool that makes it pretty easy to make changes, right? Because as college students, or I guess maybe people in boot camp, or just anyone who's, you know, actively in the process of building your resume, things change. You know, you might do new projects, you might get new experiences. So you pretty much want your personal website to be able to change and grow with you as you grow throughout your career. So I recommend using something like a Wix or a WordPress, or, you know, any one of these other web builders, because they allow you to iterate a lot quicker than if you were to build it yourself. So really quickly, just to go over why it's important for you to have an online portfolio, in case that's not already obvious, is because it's a really great way to actively market yourself or put yourself out there, right? So you think about it, the conventional way, you know, pre-COVID, that most college kids are used to marketing themselves is through career fairs, right? You know, you go out to a career fair on the career day, and there's like hundreds of people there with you, if not, you know, thousands of people, depending on how big your school is, right? And, you know, you're going table to table, and you have to talk and, you know, repeat yourself so many different times. You're wearing a suit, it's hot, it's sweaty, yuck, all that, right? So having having an online portfolio is a great way for you to do all of that passively, but rather than doing it 1 or 2 days per semester, it's online all the time, right? And especially if you also have like a LinkedIn where you can put a link to your website, or you have like a Jumpstart account, which I also recommend that you create as well, but that's besides the point of this video. So you can just leave a link to your personal website there, right? And it will communicate your skills and your value as far as a candidate to potential recruiters, employers, etc., etc. And so now time for the fourth and final step. I'm not sure if I've done a good job at making sure I was numbering each of the steps in the middle, but in any case, I'll put up like text or something in the video so you can know what the different steps are. Moving on. So for this step, at this point now you have the skills, and you also have the canvas on which to share your skills with the world. So the next thing you need to do is to build more real world projects. So now there's 2 ways to go about figuring out what real world projects to build. The first of which is trying to find clients for whom to build projects for. And so clients are typically, small businesses, mom and pop shops, or individuals like family and friends, or anyone else that you can basically sell your skills to. And the second way is pretty much to try and come up with an idea on your own, either something that you think is interesting, some problem that you want to solve, or some startup idea that you want to pursue. Any of these things will work. So I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about the first option, which is finding clients, versus the second one, because it's a lot more concrete and not as open-ended. So one way to go about finding clients is to utilize social media, and I'm talking platforms like LinkedIn or Instagram or maybe even Twitter, pretty much anywhere where you can find small businesses or entrepreneurs, and just pretty much just reach out to them, DM them, just say, hey, I've got this set of skills, and this is a great place where you can link in your online portfolio, right? Put a link to it there and say, hey, I've got these set of skills. I see that your business, you're doing this, and here's how I can help you. And maybe include the fact that you might be a student or somebody who's interested in building up their resume. Just say, hey, and I'm interested in getting better at what I do. I like what your business does or what you do, and I want to help you. So before I move on to the next way to find clients, just a few comments on what I've just mentioned on using social media to find clients. So depending on where you are on your journey of mastering your skills, you may have to offer these services for free, and there's nothing wrong with doing that, but you shouldn't do it more than twice, I would say, right? Because people can pretty quickly and easily try to take advantage of you once they see, oh, this kid, you're doing this for experience type stuff, and so they throw you so much work or give you an unreasonable kind of task to do, just because they think they can get work out of you for free, right? So keep that in mind. So I would say try to have it in your mind that you're gonna do no more than 2 free projects, right? And keep the scope of whatever the project is, or be aware of the scope, and make sure that it's not something unreasonable that they're trying to get you to do, so you don't get taken advantage of. So another way to find potential clients, and one that I've used the most, is through online job boards like, an Upwork or a freelancer.com or a Fiverr. So here it's very different than reaching out or trying to find clients on social media, because it's less of like a cold calling manner, because that the people on these job boards are there because they have work that they want people to do, right? So, you might have to do less convincing, right, that this person needs this service, right? You don't have to, so basically you don't have to convince them that they need the service that you're offering. They already know they need the service, right? So you pretty much just make an account on some of these platforms, you look at jobs and you just apply for them, and whatever you get, you complete. So I made a video where I go into a more detail about finding projects on online job boards. I'll leave a link to it up here somewhere, just so you can watch it and learn more about that as well. And so at this point, all you have to do is just rinse, recycle, and repeat until you have enough real world projects on your resume. And enough is usually, well, it depends on the industry or the domain that you're focusing in, but I'd say enough is typically about, 2 to 3 of these real world projects, and including 2 to 3 projects that you did while you were going through tutorials. So now you have about 6 projects that you can add to your resume, and now you can as well as an online portfolio, and now you have a much stronger advantage when you go to apply for internships or jobs. So thank you for watching this video. As usual, it was a great pleasure making it. Feel free to hit that subscribe button if you like this kind of content and you want to see more. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this. Oh, excuse me. But yeah, until next time, take it easy. Hope you have a good one.